Time is running out on Capitol Hill as two crucial deadlines approach. Democrats and Republicans need to come to an agreement before next Thursday in order to prevent the government from shutting down and defaulting on its debts. CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion shows us what's at stake.
Tonight, the federal government in limbo, 1 week before funding is due to run out.
A shutdown is inconceivable, abhorrent, repugnant.
The White House officially put federal agencies on notice today, warning it is preparing for any contingency. The 2019 shutdown lasted 35 days and cost the economy $11 billion. But a shutdown now during a pandemic could impact the CDC and NIH.
We'll keep government open.
Congressional Democrats and Republicans remain deadlocked over the spending measure, which includes aid for Hurricane Ida and Afghan refugees. But the real disagreement is over a provision to suspend the debt limit so the government can keep paying its bills, which so far Republicans are refusing to do.
Is there anything that can change your mind?
I'm not going to increase a debt limit to spend another $5 trillion in the next month.
U.S. officials say failure to act could risk catastrophic damage to the economy. A default could wipe out nearly 6 million jobs.
Can you count them?
Jody Lamberti, who runs a daycare out of her home, hopes hers isn't one of them.
It could mean losing my business. It could mean losing my home, losing my car.
Nikole Killion joins me now from Capitol Hill with more. Hey, Nikole, as you mentioned, the White House told federal agencies to prepare for a government shutdown next week. Is this just pro forma, or do lawmakers, are they really indicating that they believe that it will happen? What are you hearing on the Hill?
Well, this really is more standard procedures, considering that we're a week out from a potential lapse in funding. So, the budget office is required to kind of put agencies on notice, make sure they kind of have a shutdown plan in order, whether or not they actually have to put that into effect. And also worth pointing out that the White House and Office of Management and Budget, says they still believe that Congress should be able to address this and avoid a lapse. At least that is their hope. But again, they've got to have that kind of contingency plan. But look, the state of play is unclear right now. What we know is that the House earlier this week did pass this government funding bill, and it's just a temporary bill that would stopgap measure that would provide funding for the government through the end of the year, provide funding for, disaster relief to deal with Hurricane Ida, help in terms of resettling Afghan refugees. And so none of that is really too controversial. Did have support from Republicans and Democrats, broadly speaking. But the real issue is the fact that they had this debt limit language tucked into it. And so, in essence, Democratic leaders were trying to do two things at once, right? Shore up the government funding, but also make sure that things are in order with respect to the debt limit, which, we're getting towards that point where the government could risk a defaulting on its obligation. So Democratic leaders argue that this in the past has been a bipartisan vote, and that's why they put that language in this spending bill. That being said, Republicans feel very strongly that they don't want to support a debt limit suspension or increase at this time, strictly because Democrats right now are trying to push through this massive reconciliation package. And so their view on it is, look, if Democrats want to keep spending, we're not going to keep saying yes to, putting more money on the credit card, even though debt limit does primarily deal with past spending and just allowing the government to pay its bills for what it's already spent. And so therein lies the issue. So, as far as the Senate, we do know in the coming days they're going to take up this measure. But right now, it seems it's probably not going to have enough votes to pass, given Republicans' opposition. And lawmakers really haven't specified what their plan B is or could be.
Yeah, well, Nikole, we've been through government shutdowns before, but the idea of not being able to deal with the debt ceiling, to either raise it or suspend it, that could potentially lead to the first time in history the government not paying its bills and defaulting. How real is that possibility there on the Hill?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. You know, obviously there's a lot of concern around that. And we know, obviously, you had the Treasury Secretary who was on Capitol Hill earlier today, but we know she has implored Congress time and again to act on this. Otherwise, you know, the U.S. economy could face catastrophic effects. We've seen former Treasury Secretaries also make their case to congressional leaders. You know, we've had Moody's Analytics come out saying, you know, this will cost the economy 6 million jobs, unemployment will go up, and the like. So, look, lawmakers are very well aware of the risks here. Many of them say, look, we've been down this road before. But the bottom line is Republicans really aren't budging. And I've talked to quite a few of them, you know, from House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy on down, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell as well. And their position remains the same. They feel, look, Democrats are running the show here. The burden should be on them to deal with the debt limit. And that is something that they have been saying for weeks, if not months now. Democrats have been resistant, for instance, to put the debt limit in their reconciliation package because, again, they insist that this should be a bipartisan vote. Republicans have raised the debt limit in the past and suspended it in the past, so this time should be no different.
So it's a regular playbook that whoever is in charge, the other team doesn't want them to be spending as much on their priorities. But let's talk about the Democrats, Nikole, because on Thursday, the White House and congressional Democrats actually agreed to a framework on how to pay for the president's $3.5 trillion social infrastructure plan, but very few details were given. So what does an agreement on a framework actually mean?
I wish I could tell you. I think us reporters on Capitol Hill are still trying to figure that one out after, you know, asking all of these senators and House lawmakers about that, because, you know, you have some lawmakers who didn't even know anything about this. And, you know, the language around this has been very vague. I mean, as you can see there, Speaker Pelosi was joined earlier today by Leader Schumer and by Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Leader Schumer only talked very briefly to announce this so-called agreement to the framework. But, you know, again, we didn't get many details. I mean, after this press conference today, Leader Schumer did say that, in essence, this was really the first time for, you know, members of the House and the Senate, the White House, to kind of sit down and kind of come to an agreement over how this reconciliation package should be paid for. Although, again, they didn't give a lot of specifics. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer just said this now provides them with a menu of options to pay for this $3.5 trillion package. What they also would not say is whether or not this agreement would adjust that price tag at all. You know, there's been talk about whether or not it may be pared down, let's say, to $3 trillion, but Speaker Pelosi made clear that this was really an agreement based on, you know, upholding their values for this package, that the price tag had nothing to do with it. So I know I'm just kind of giving you more vagaries, but, you know, really that's about all we know at this time. And of course, as we dig in and try to get more details or see something on paper, of course, we'll report that out.
Sounds great, Nikole. Thank you.
You bet.